Surrounded by a pack of level 5 wasteland gray wolves, a young boy desperately runs for his life, crying out for his parents to save him. The fierce monsters quickly close in, cornering the terrified child. With nowhere left to run, he drops to his knees, covering his ears and sobbing as the wolves leap forward to attack. Suddenly, a powerful beam of light pierces through the air, instantly slicing through the monsters and instantly killing them. As blood splatters across the ground, the chaos comes to an end. A calm voice speaks out to the terrified boy, assuring him that everything is okay now. Shaking with tear-filled eyes, the boy looks up to see a cloaked, sword-wielding figure extending a hand toward him, offering to take him back to the safety of the city. It was not until they reached the city gates that the boy learned his savior was Luo Zhenning, the legendary hero of the Destiny Covenant Association. Years later, the young boy, Chen Xi, sits on the stone steps of an academy, having officially awakened as a Shadow Mage. Disappointment weighs heavily on him. Although Shadow Mage is not entirely useless, it is far too ordinary. Nearby students complain that their summoned skeletons were destroyed and ask how long until new ones can be summoned. When told it takes 10 minutes, they panic, knowing they will be wiped out long before then. Chen Xi sighs, well aware of the limitations. Low-level Shadow Mages can only control 2 skeletons at a time, and once destroyed, their summoning skill enters a 10-minute cooldown. Without any offensive skills, the Shadow Mage becomes complete dead weight on the battlefield. Opening his status window, Chen Xi looks at his baseline stats, level 0 with 100 health and mana, and 10 points across strength, intelligence, agility, and constitution. He finds it incredibly frustrating. During his spirit power test, he scored 150 points. Typically, spirit power between 25 and 85 awakens a regular class, 85 to 105 grants a chance at a rare class, and anything above 105 offers a shot at an SSS hidden class. Chen Xi remembers that in his entire class, only one other student exceeded 105 spirit power, Manhwa, known as Heaven's Chosen Daughter, who scored 110. Even though Chen Xi surpassed her score by a full 40 points, he ended up with a basic class. Just then, an announcement echoes across the courtyard, declaring that Zhang Minghua has awakened as a Void Wanderer, an SSS hidden class. The crowd bursts into excitement and envy, whispering about how she will easily get into the Destiny Covenant Association. Some students wonder why she received a hidden class when Chen Xi's spirit power was higher, but they quickly quiet down as Chen Xi walks past. Watching Zhang Minghua stand at the center of the magic circle surrounded by surging energy, Chen Xi realizes the massive gap between their classes. Despite his superior spirit power, she secured an SSS hidden class while he was left with an ordinary one. He worries about disappointing Mr. Luo, who belongs to the Destiny Covenant Association, the top guild in Great Xia, and the only one directly under the nation's authority. The association is set to recruit new members from major academies in 1 month. However, despite their claim of evaluating overall performance, everyone knows they almost exclusively recruit newcomers with rare or hidden classes, leaving regular class holders with virtually no chance. As the crowd continues to praise Zhang Minghua for her beauty, talent, and incredible awakening, Chen Xi quietly walks away through the crowd, weighed down by the reality of his situation. Zhang Minghua turns back briefly, silently watching as Chen Xi leaves the academy courtyard. Chen Xi makes his way back home to the Jiang City's second welfare home. As he walks up the stairs inside, a woman notices his gloomy expression and asks why he looks so down, wondering if he wants to eat. Chen Xi replies that he is fine, skipping dinner and heading straight to his room. Watching him walk away, the woman sighs, worrying that his class awakening today might not have gone well. Closing the bedroom door behind him, Chen Xi collapses onto his bed. He thinks to himself that someone like Zhang Minghua will easily join the Destiny Covenant Association even without leveling up for a month, as class potential is determined at birth. Still, he tries to stay positive, reasoning that an ordinary class is at least better than a trash one. High levels and top-tier equipment could still give him a fighting chance to reach the association and fulfill his promise to Mr. Luo. Suddenly, a glowing blue screen pops up right in front of him, displaying a system update notification at 50%. Shocked, Chen Xi sits up as the progress bar reaches 100%, declaring the update complete. Puzzled that a system can even update, he checks his status interface. At first glance, everything appears unchanged, his stats are still completely average, and his Summon Undead skill still lists a 10-minute cooldown cost for summoning 2 skeletons. But as he swipes through the interface, a new feature catches his eye, a golden trait called Arcane Grace, with a note stating that a new golden trait will unlock every 5 levels. Having never seen a trait UI in any of his 3 years of Academy theory classes, he inspects the effect details closely. To his utter disbelief, the description reveals that all skills now have 0 cooldown. Stunned by the discovery, Chen Xi accidentally shouts out loud, "Skills have no CD?" His sudden outburst reaches the courtyard below, leaving the caretaker outside hanging clothes confused about what he is yelling about. Realizing the massive advantage he just gained, Chen Xi becomes overwhelmed with excitement. Cooldowns are the single most vital factor for magic classes, and gear with cooldown reduction costs an absolute fortune while offering very little benefit. But now every single one of his skills has no cooldown at all. He quickly calculates the possibilities. With his 100 mana pool and each summon costing 10 mana, he can instantly cast his skill 10 times in a row, summoning 20 skeletons in a single moment. Testing out his newly updated power, Chen Xi activates his summoning magic. Glowing magic circles erupt around him, and skeletal soldiers with burning blue eyes break through the floor and surround him in his room. Seeing the army of undead standing at his command, Chen Xi confirms that the trait truly works. He realizes that as long as his mana continues to grow, he can summon endlessly without delay. Envisioning a future where he commands massive skeletal dragon beasts and an unstoppable legion of armored undead warriors, he knows he can build his own massive army. He smirks with renewed confidence, realizing that if his level completely outpaces everyone else's within the month, the Destiny Covenant Association will have no choice but to make an exception for him. Determined not to waste a single second, Chen Xi decides to head straight out to clear the beginner dungeon. As he walks down the stairs, he startles the caretaker, who gasps in horror at the parade of armored skeletons marching right behind him. Ignoring her shock, Chen Xi smiles with determination, resolved to make Mr. Luo proud. Chen Xi stepped into the bustling dungeon lobby, still wearing his level 1 starter set. But as he looked around at the other adventurers gathering in parties, he noticed something odd. Not a single person was heading toward the beginner trial grounds. He quickly realized that everyone else was running dungeons in groups, leaving the solo path completely empty. Before he could even enter the portal, a familiar voice cut through the air. Chen Xi turned to see his ex-girlfriend Chen Lucy, standing with her arm linked around a smug-looking man in armor, Xing Wei, the young master of the Xing conglomerate and his love rival. Xing Wei wasted no time rubbing it in, declaring that he had awakened a rare class while Chen Xi was stuck with a standard one. With a condescending smirk, he told Chen Xi that the gap between them was now too huge, and that Chen Xi should stop clinging to Lucy from now on. He added that his father had already arranged for people to power level him and Lucy, then mockingly reminded Chen Xi that he had his skeletons to keep him company anyway. Chen Xi stood there in silence. In a world where the weak were prey to the strong, awakening a standard class meant being just another face in the crowd. Getting dumped by his ex wasn't surprising. The real problem was that no one dared to team up with him. Xing Wei had made sure of that. Even nearby adventurers whispered about how Xing Wei hated his guts, with one suggesting they invite him to party up, only for the other to immediately shoot it down. So with no other choice, Chen Xi walked alone toward the glowing blue portal and stepped into the beginner dungeon to grind levels by himself. Just as he crossed the threshold, a masked man in a tech-enhanced suit monitored his entry, calmly reporting that Chen Xi had just entered the beginner trial grounds. Inside the dungeon, a system hologram appeared, displaying the rules. The level requirement was below 10, and the monster hint warned that each outer ring increased the monster level by 1. Another prompt explained that entering a monster's attack range would trigger active aggression, and once he stepped out of the safe zone into combat, he could not return. Chen Xi took a step forward, leaving the safety of the starting circle. Immediately, a pack of glow rats emerged from the shadows, their eyes glowing a menacing yellow-green. A scan confirmed they were level 1 normal monsters, each worth 10 experience points, with basic attacks and a 3-meter attack range. Most freshly awakened players at level 0 would be doomed if multiple mobs came at once. They had only one skill and no way to control aggro. That's why everyone usually partied up or found a high-level carry. But Chen Xi had a different plan. The glow rats respawned roughly every 8 seconds and patrolled within 3 meters. He carefully observed the aggro threshold at the edge of the safe zone, crossed the line, and they triggered. So he decided to use his summons as a buffer to hold the front line. With a sharp command, Chen Xi shouted, "Summon shadows." Dark, swirling energies erupted around him. A massive staff appeared in his hand, and the ground trembled as purple magic surged. Skeletal warriors clad in armor and wielding blades burst forth from the shadows. The golden text of his trait, Arcane Grace, flared above him, All skills had no cooldown. But as he summoned wave after wave, he glanced at his mana bar and realized it was almost empty. Still, he had managed to summon 40 skeletons in a single go. That was more than enough. The swarm of glow rats charged forward, but Chen Xi's undead army stood ready, 40 armored skeletons forming an impenetrable wall between him and the horde. With his summons holding the line, Chen Xi was finally ready to fight. With his skeletal army in position, Chen Xi extended his staff forward and gave the command. Kill. The armored skeletons surged forward like a tidal wave of bone and steel, crashing into the swarm of glow rats. Blades sliced through the air, cutting down the monsters in brutal, efficient strikes. Blood splattered across the stone floor as each rat fell, and a series of blue system prompts flashed in rapid succession, confirming each kill with 10 experience points. The sheer volume of the slaughter was overwhelming. As the bodies piled up at his feet, another system notification appeared. Chen Xi's level had finally ticked over. He glanced at his status screen, level 0, now at 45% experience, and realized just how fast he was climbing. He tapped the air, and the glowing notification confirmed it. In less than 10 minutes, he had already gone from level 0 to level 1. Solo runs, he noted, gave far more experience than splitting it in a party. A new status window popped up, displaying his updated stats. As a level 1 Shadow Mage, his base attributes were still the same: 100 health, 100 mana, and 10 points across Strength, Intelligence, Agility, and Constitution. But now he had earned 5 free attribute points. Without hesitation, Chen Xi chose his investment. For a caster like him, Intelligence determined spell damage and maximum mana, and mana was exactly what he was lacking. With a quick motion, he allocated all 5 points into Intelligence. He gripped his staff, purple magical energy flaring around his hand. Once his mana pool reached full capacity, it would rise to 250. That amount would let him flood the battlefield with even more summons and maintain absolute control over the fight. With his new stats in place, Chen Xi stepped forward, his skeletal legion marching silently at his side. He moved deeper into the dungeon, the stone floor echoing with the sound of his footsteps. He had reached the second ring. The environment shifted, and new monsters emerged from the darkness. A pack of gray wolves, their eyes burning a fierce red, snarled and bared their fangs. A system scan revealed their details: level 2 normal monsters, worth 20 experience points per kill with basic attacks. The wolves were bigger and faster than the rats, and they wasted no time closing in. But Chen Xi was ready. He raised his staff and shouted once more, "Summon shadows." And a massive skeletal warrior burst out of the shadows, jaw wide open in a silent roar. More skeletons followed, charging past Chen Xi and engaging the gray wolves head-on. The skeletal blades clashed against the wolves' fangs, tearing through them with brutal force. Another wave of blue notifications lit up the air, each kill granting 20 experience points. The gray wolves fell one after another, their bodies crumpling to the ground as Chen Xi's army carved through them without mercy. With his summons controlling the battlefield and his newly boosted mana pool, the second ring proved to be no more of a challenge than the first. Chen Xi was already well on his way to the next level. The massacre continued without pause. As his skeletal army cut through another wave of gray wolves, a brilliant golden pillar of light erupted around Chen Xi. He looked up as another system notification flashed before him. He had leveled up again. His status now read level 2 at 45% experience, with each defeated wolf confirming another 20 experience points. The gray wolves dropped in droves, their bodies falling in heaps as the skeletal legion marched forward without mercy. But the dungeon wasn't done with him yet. As Chen Xi advanced deeper, a massive shadow slithered across the stone floor. Huge blue serpents with glowing green eyes emerged from the darkness, hissing and coiling in front of him. Rattlesnakes, level 3 monsters, worth 30 experience points each. Chen Xi didn't flinch. He raised his staff high, summoning a fresh wave of armored skeletons. They charged forward with terrifying speed, blades flashing as they hacked through the serpentine horde. The snakes lunged with fangs bared, but the skeletons met them head-on. System notifications popped up in rapid succession. 30 experience, then another 30, and another. The rattlesnakes fell as quickly as the wolves had, their bodies dissolving into purple magical flames. Time flew by as Chen Xi and his undead army swept through ring after ring. The dungeon floor became a graveyard of monster corpses, each one bathed in the glow of his summons. 2 hours passed, and then 3. Finally, A time marker appeared on the screen. In just 3.5 hours, Chen Xi had hit level 5. A new status screen appeared, confirming his progress. He tapped the interface to review his rewards. Every 5 levels, a player unlocked a new skill and an entry. A new icon flashed brightly in his status window. Chen Xi opened it, and his eyes went wide. The skill was called Corpse Explosion. The description read, detonate a controlled skeleton, dealing 300% spell damage to all enemy units within a 2-meter radius. But even more shockingly, the cooldown was listed as none, and the cost was none. Chen Xi's jaw dropped. Corpse Explosion didn't cost any mana either. With his new skill unlocked and his army still standing strong, Chen Xi was more than ready to push deeper into the dungeon. Chen Xi stepped confidently into the next area, his massive skeletal legion trailing close behind him like a dark tide. He was eager to put his new skill to the test, and the perfect opportunity was already waiting for him. Ahead, the ground shook with heavy, thudding footsteps. Massive, armored reptilian beasts stomped into view, steelthorn rhino lizards. A scan revealed their terrifying stats. Level 5 elite monsters, heavy armored chargers worth 50 experience points per kill. Their skills were brutal, an ironclad rush that knocked targets back and caused bleed, and a steelthorn recoil that reflected damage back at melee attackers. For any normal solo player, these beasts would be a nightmare. But Chen Xi just smirked. Perfect, he said, gripping his staff. I'll use you guys to test my new skill. He ordered his army forward toward the 5th ring. The skeletons surged ahead in a tight fan formation, holding the line as the rhino lizards let out deafening roars and charged. The collision was explosive. Steel clashed against steel as the heavy beast crashed into the skeletal wall. But Chen Xi was already in motion. Corpse Explosion, he shouted. The moment a skeleton fell, he triggered the skill. A blinding flash of red light erupted from the fallen warrior. The explosion detonated with devastating force, sending shockwaves ripping through the surrounding rhino lizards. System notifications exploded across the screen. Successfully killed steelthorn rhino lizard. Gained 50 EXP. One after another, piling up as the chain reaction tore through the elite monsters. But Chen Xi didn't stop there. As the smoke cleared, he immediately cast another summon. Shadow Summon. A new skeletal warrior rose from the shadows. Then, without missing a beat, he detonated it too. Corpse Explosion. Another massive blast rocked the battlefield, wiping out the survivors. In the midst of the carnage, another notification chimed. He had unlocked a new entry. Chen Xi swiped the interface open and read its effect, Spirit Bond Guard. It was a passive ability that transferred 100% of all damage the player received directly to their summons. Chen Xi's eyes widened as he processed the implications. Basically, as long as he had a summon standing, any hit meant for him would be absorbed by his skeletons. He could swap himself out endlessly. And with no cooldowns on his skills, he could keep summoning non-stop. That was basically immortality. A straggling rhino lizard survived the blast and charged him from the side. Chen Xi didn't even turn around. As the beast lunged, a notification flashed, entry, Spirit Bond Guard, triggered. The lizard's massive claws should have torn through him, but instead, a nearby skeleton instantly took the full force of the blow, shattering into pieces. The lizard collided with another skeleton and crumpled to the ground with a heavy, echoing thud. Chen Xi looked back calmly, noting the few remaining stragglers. His army was still intact, his mana was flowing, and his defenses were impenetrable. With an immortal barrier of undead shields and a zero-cost AoE nuke, he was ready to tear through the rest of the dungeon without a single scratch. With a single command, Chen Xi pointed forward and shouted, "Kill." The skeletal warriors surged toward the last remaining steelthorn rhino lizard. A skeleton leaped into the air, blade flashing, and brought its weapon down in a devastating arc. The lizard let out a final, agonized roar as the strike connected, and a bright system notification confirmed the kill, another 50 experience points. One by one, the massive beasts fell, their armored bodies crashing to the ground in a series of violent explosions. The dungeon floor fell silent. Chen Xi walked through the carnage, stepping over the fallen monsters as he made his way toward the exit. After hours of non-stop grinding, his stomach growled loudly. "I'm starving," he muttered to himself. He had been grinding since early morning, and now it was time to head out and grab some breakfast from a street stall. He stepped through the glowing blue portal, leaving the trial grounds behind. The moment he emerged into the dungeon lobby, he was met with the usual buzz of crowded hallways. But as he walked past the bustling groups, a familiar figure watched him from the shadows, the masked man in the tech-enhanced suit who had monitored his entry. The man locked his eyes on Chen Xi's back, and without a second hesitation, he activated a scanning ability. Insight. The masked man whispered. A digital reticle appeared, locking onto Chen Xi, and a single readout flashed across his display, level 5. The man's eyes widened in disbelief. A cold drop of sweat trickled down his temple. He clenched his fist tightly, still processing what he had just seen. Raising his wrist, he activated a holographic communication screen. A woman's face appeared on the other end. The masked man spoke quickly, his voice laced with shock. Miss Chen, she just exited the trial grounds. He paused, then delivered the news that had thrown him off balance. He's level 5 already. On the other side of the call, the woman's expression shifted to pure astonishment. Meanwhile, inside the grand traditional estate of Jiang Minghui's home, a tense conversation was unfolding in the study. Jiang Minghui sat in a wooden chair with a book in her hands, her expression growing annoyed as she watched her father pace restlessly in front of her. "Dad, stop pacing in front of me," she said, snapping the book shut. "You're making me dizzy." Her father stopped and turned to face her, his tone urgent. "We can hide my class info later if we have to," he said. "Right now, the priority is leveling up." But Jiang Minghui remained calm, almost bored. "What's the rush?" She replied with a dismissive wave. "I've got a hidden class. Getting into the Destiny Contract Guild is basically guaranteed." Her father slammed his hand on the table, his frustration boiling over. "I'm the one in charge of recruiting for Destiny Contract Guild at Tunyuan Academy, your old man." He shot back. "If your level falls behind everyone else's, where am I supposed to put my face?" Jiang Minghui let out a long sigh, finally giving in. "Fine, fine," she muttered, closing her book. "I'll grab a bite, then head out to grind in the wild." She stood up and walked toward the door, but as she reached the doorway, her wrist communicator buzzed. The masked operative's voice came through loud and clear. "Miss Chen, she just exited the trial grounds. He's already level 5. The news hit her like a thunderbolt." Jiang Minghui froze mid-step. Behind her, her father called out, "Why are you spacing out? Go eat, then get to grinding." But Jiang Minghui wasn't paying attention to his nagging anymore. Her mind was racing. She knew Chen Xi had awoken as a regular Shadow Mage with a 150 mental power, something she had always found suspicious. But what really threw her off was the sheer speed. He's already level 5? And in just 2 hours? She turned around sharply, her eyes narrowing. "Dad, how much do you know about the beginner trial grounds?" Her father frowned, confused. "What are you asking about that for?" She pressed further. "Because the beginner trial grounds are a death trap," she declared. Her father scoffed, crossing his arms. "Sure, the monsters give more EXP, but the efficiency is awful," he explained dismissively. "It's way worse than getting carried outside, and might even be slower than you soloing in the wild. Even with a hidden class, clearing it in under 10 hours is pushing it." "You think that place is some kind of amusement park?" Jiang Minghui shook her head, a sense of dread creeping in. "But Chen Xi did it," she said softly. "And in just 2 hours." She paused, then voiced the question burning in her mind. What if he really is a Shadow Mage? Her father snorted in disbelief. "Shadow Mages start with just 2 little skeletons," he said, holding up 2 fingers. 10-minute cooldown. Once the skeletons drop, you're just standing there getting smacked. Leveling like that? Keep dreaming. You are not allowed to touch the beginner trial grounds. That is not up for discussion." Jiang Minghui turned away, but a flicker of curiosity remained in her eyes. Her father, trying to shift the topic, rubbed his chin and asked, "All right, Manhwa, among this batch of awakenings aside from you, is there anyone else promising?" Jiang Minghui paused, her hand on the doorframe. "There actually is one," she said. Her father's eyes sharpened. "Who?" he demanded. But Jiang Minghui just smiled and waved her hand. "Since you're banning me from the trial grounds, I'll keep it to myself for now." Her father groaned, throwing his hands up. "I'm doing this for your own good." Besides you, there are only 5 rare classes this time. I just want to know how those 5 turned out. Zhao Menghuai shrugged nonchalantly. Those 5? Don't know them. Don't care. She opened the door, stepping out with a cheerful wave. I'm heading out, bye. Left alone in the study, her father slumped in defeat, muttering under his breath, that brat. I must owe her from a past life. Once outside, Zhang Menghuai walked down the estate's corridor, a serious look replacing her casual demeanor. She lifted her communicator and issued a direct order to the masked operative. Keep tailing Chen Xi. Report his movements to me at all times. She paused, checking a location update, and added, Chen Xi is currently at the Shengtian Grand Restaurant. Down in Skywing City, on the outer street of the Central Plaza, Chen Xi had already made his way to a bustling food stall. Chen Xi walked up to the towering Shengtian Grand Restaurant, Skywing City's most luxurious establishment. A caption explained that rumor had it all the chefs that were top-tier life class masters, with a head chef on the top floor boasting a hidden life class called Elemental Magic Chef, whose dishes could actually boost a person's attributes. But as Chen Xi looked up at the extravagant building, he shook his head. With prices like that, it was daylight robbery. With how little money he had, he didn't deserve to step inside. He just grabbed some street food, then hit another dungeon. As he turned to leave, however, a familiar face blocked his path, none other than the arrogant young Master Lu, the very same guy who had mocked him earlier about not being able to afford a single piece of gear. Lu stood flanked by his party, smirking as he sized Chen Xi up. Well, if it isn't young Master Lu, Chen Xi said dryly, but Lu wasn't interested in pleasantries. What? No more tough talk. Weren't you all high and mighty before? He sneered, gesturing at Chen Xi's worn outfit. 150 mental power, and this is all you've got to show for it? Dressed in full starter gear. You look pathetic. Lu gestured to himself and his party, flaunting their upgraded equipment. Look at us full blue gear, but you can't even afford a single piece. It's only been a little over 2 hours and we're almost level 3. Where are you at? Chen Xi's expression remained flat. He didn't answer the taunt. Instead, he simply said, move. Lu's eyes narrowed, a vein bulging on his forehead. Say that again? But before the tension could escalate any further, a shout rang out from behind the crowd. Break it up. Everyone turned to see Zhang Minghuai striding forward. Without a word, she raised her leg and delivered a powerful kick straight into Lu's chest. The armored young master was sent flying backward, crashing hard onto the cobblestone street with a heavy thud. Lu scrambled up, furious. Who the hell are you? Tired of living. He stopped mid-sentence as he finally got a clear look at his attacker. His rage instantly turned to shock. It's Zhang Menghuai. His demeanor shifted entirely. He scrambled to his feet, brushing off his armor with a nervous laugh. Just a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. Miss Zhang. He took a step back, raising his hands defensively. We're not going to stoop to his level. But even as he retreated, he shot a venomous glare at Chen Xi. Chen Xi, don't let me catch you alone. Zhao Menghuai ignored the threat entirely. She turned to Chen Xi with a bright smile, casually offering, want to grab a meal? My treat. Chen Xi glanced at her, and then briefly at Lucy, who had been watching from the sidelines in silence. Same to you, he thought. But out loud, he just replied, thanks for earlier, by the way. Zhang Menghuai waved it off. No need. Behind her, a group of high-level class holders waited. Chen Xi recognized them. They were probably here to power-level Zhang Menghuai. She continued, I was just about to go grind. Want to come? But then she paused, adding, I need to eat something first, recover my strength. Chen Xi's mind drifted to the mechanics of power leveling. If party levels were too far apart, there was an experience penalty. Sometimes you'd get nothing at all. When families power-leveled newbies, the best strategy was to keep the gap within 15 levels. Even then, 4 carriers would still cause a penalty, but the speed usually made up for it. Zhang Menghuai looked at Chen Xi's plain attire and asked, need any gear? Better starter gear makes leveling easier. Chen Xi shook his head politely. Really, I'm fine, but thanks, Jiang. If you're busy, go to your thing. I'm going to eat. He turned and walked away, hands in his pockets, heading toward the street food stalls. Zhang Menghuai watched him go for a moment, then looked back at her waiting party. She still had a dungeon to clear and a very interesting young man to keep an eye on. After turning down Jiang Mingwai's offer, Chen Xi walked through the bustling streets and made his way straight toward the dungeon lobby. From the shadows, the masked operative who had been tailing him watched with growing confusion. Why is he heading to the party dungeon zone? He wondered. There were only two dungeons below level 10. One was the Frost Cavern at level 5, and the other was the level 10 Hell Pit. But Chen Xi wasn't even close to that yet, so what was he doing there? The masked man followed at a distance as Chen Xi entered the party dungeon zone. The massive hall was filled with glowing blue teleportation circles, each one occupied by groups of heavily armed adventurers preparing to run dungeons together. Chen Xi strode past them all, ignoring the bustling crowds, until he stopped directly in front of an empty summoning circle. Without hesitation, he stepped onto the glowing platform. The moment his feet touched the magic circle, a large, translucent interface materialized in the air before him. It read Ancient War Dungeon. The details flickered across the screen: mode, solo/party, level 1, party size, unlimited, restrictions, none, and most importantly, rewards, generous. Chen Xi studied the options for a moment, then reached out and tapped the screen with his finger. The interface confirmed his selection, and the teleportation circle beneath him flared with brilliant cyan light. As the light engulfed him, his figure began to dissolve into pixels and energy, preparing to transport him into the dungeon. Behind him, the masked operative's eyes went wide with disbelief. He watched as Chen Xi vanished from the platform, and the realization hit him like a freight train. He's going to solo a party dungeon. The man stood frozen, utterly stunned. The moment Chen Xi stepped through the portal, he found himself standing in the middle of a vast, frozen wasteland. Labels and text appeared, confirming his location: Dungeon, Frostmaw Cavern, Interior. Icefield Ravine. A system panel detailed the dungeon's layout. On normal difficulty, Frostmaw Cavern had 150 Frostmaws spread across 3 zones, plus 3 elite Frostmaws and a final boss, the Frostmaw King. Chen Xi stood in the designated safe zone, rubbing his arms against the biting cold. He realized he should have worn a coat before coming in. But despite the freezing temperature, he remained focused. The trial dungeon simply couldn't give him what he needed anymore. Right now, he needed money and gear, and party dungeons, even on normal difficulty, offered far better rewards. He knew this was a party dungeon, but with his unlimited summons, soloing it was entirely within reach. Without hesitation, he stepped off the safe zone and into the snow. He gripped his staff, and with a flash of blue light, he activated his skill. Swirling magical energy erupted around him as skeletal warriors clawed their way up from the frozen ground. In moments, a massive army of armored skeletons was standing at his command, waiting for his orders. The first wave of monsters didn't take long to arrive. From beneath the ice, hordes of frost moles burst forth, their red eyes glowing with hunger. A system scan revealed their traits. These were level 5 common monsters, each worth 70 experience points. Their burrow assault let them submerge and burst out for melee attacks, and their scent perception gave them priority aggression on flesh units. But Chen Xi skeletons weren't flesh, and the system confirmed that their aggro remained stable on the non-flesh summons. The frost moles lunged, but the skeletal vanguard met them head-on. Blades flashed, bones crunched, and the moles fell one after another. System notifications filled the air. Successfully killed frost mole. Gained EXP plus 70. Over and over again as the undead army carved through the horde with ruthless efficiency. Chen Xi stood safely at the back, watching his army do all the work. He couldn't help but let out a quiet sigh. It was a bit boring, always picking up loot in the back while his summons did the fighting. He glanced around, feeling a little underwhelmed, until a sudden heavy tremor shook the frozen ground. Next up is the elite zone, Chen Xi said. From the icy mist, a massive armored mole burst through the ground, far larger and more menacing than the common ones. A system scan appeared: Elite Ice Mole. Its characteristics were dangerous. Frostbite could slow attack and movement speed, while Ground Slam caused a small area knockback. However, the scan also revealed a critical weakness: low magic resistance, making it highly vulnerable to full AoE magic damage. Chen Xi's eyes narrowed. He pointed forward and commanded his army: close in and surround it. The skeletons surged forward, encircling the elite ice mole from all sides. The beast roared, thrashing and slamming the ground, but the skeletons held their formation. Then Chen Xi gave the final order. Detonate in place. The moment he spoke, the skeletons surrounding the elite mole lit up with an intense red glow. One by one, they detonated in a chain of devastating explosions. Damage numbers flared across the screen, -120, -120, as the blast tore into the elite beast. The explosions piled up, leaving the massive mole engulfed in fire and shockwaves. When the smoke cleared, a system notification appeared. Successfully defeated Elite Frost Mole. Gained EXP plus 300. The beast collapsed to the ground, defeated. Chen Xi stood calmly amidst the carnage, his army already reforming from the shadows, ready to push deeper into the frozen cavern. The Elite Frost Mole crumbled to the ground. As the beast's body dissolved into particles of light, a loot chest materialized, and a second notification popped up, this time with a glowing blue icon. Chen Xi tapped the interface to inspect his prize. The loot was a level 5 Frost Mole robe, an excellent blue-grade item. Its main attribute provided a massive plus 13 to intelligence, which translated to approximately 150 more max mana. With that boost alone, he could summon over 20 additional skeletons. The robe also came with other defensive stats, making it a significant upgrade. He immediately opened his inventory, selected the robe, and pressed wear equipment. A burst of golden light enveloped him as the Frost Mole robe materialized over his clothes, wrapping him in a sleek, hooded blue mantle. The new gear fit perfectly, and the power surge was immediate. With his increased mana, Chen Xi calculated that his progression speed was about to accelerate drastically. But the dungeon wasn't finished with him yet. As he pressed deeper into the icy cavern, a new threat emerged from the frost: Elite Frost Weasels. These beasts had low magic resistance, which was exactly what Chen Xi needed. The corpse explosion skill would hit them for full damage, and with their health sitting around 2000 HP, detonating just a dozen out of his 20 summon skeletons would be more than enough to one-shot them. The frost weasels lunged forward with blinding speed, their fangs bared. But Chen Xi didn't flinch. He raised his staff, and his skeletal vanguard intercepted the charge. The undead warriors clashed with the weasels in a blur of steel and fur. Chen Xi stood at the back, watching the brutal exchange unfold as his summons held the line. 20 minutes later, the sounds of combat faded. Chen Xi walked through the blood-stained snow, his footsteps crunching against the frozen ground, until he arrived at a massive ice-covered archway. A label above the entrance read, Boss Area. He stepped inside, and the dungeon boss revealed itself, the Ice Mole Boss. It was a towering, heavily armored mole wearing a crown, its glowing red eyes scanning the cavern. A system panel appeared, detailing its prelude action. The boss was currently raising its head to sniff the air, meaning combat had not yet been triggered. Chen Xi didn't wait. He pointed his staff toward the boss and shouted, "Everyone push forward, lock it down, then explode." A wave of shadows erupted from his staff, and dozens of armored skeletons burst out of the darkness, charging straight at the boss. The Ice Mole King roared, swinging its massive claws, but the skeletons swarmed it from all sides, pinning the beast in place. Then Chen Xi clenched his fist. Detonate. The skeletons surrounding the boss lit up with a violent red glow. One after another, they detonated in a chain of massive explosions. A devastating crimson shockwave tore through the cavern, engulfing the Ice Mole King in fire and concussive force. The blast was so intense that it shattered the surrounding ice, sending shards flying in every direction. When the red light finally faded, a single notification appeared. Successfully killed Frost Mole King. Gained 1000 experience. The boss collapsed, its crown tumbling to the frozen floor. Chen Xi walked forward, tapping the glowing pickup prompt that materialized over the loot. His reward was a purple-gray drop, a set of chilled spine ice-treading greaves, heavy armor boots, and a chilled marrow bone staff. The staff hummed with a cold, cyan glow, clearly a powerful upgrade over his starter weapon. He gripped his new staff, a satisfied smile playing at his lips. First time clearing normal, and I already got a purple drop. Not bad. With better gear in hand and his power growing, he was ready to push the dungeon to its limit. Chen Xi examined the new staff in his hand, a satisfied gleam in his eyes. This one's a real prize, he said. A system panel popped up, detailing the weapon's incredible value. The bone staff of the Cold Marrow was a top-tier low-rank magical weapon from the Frosty Mole Cave, with an extremely low drop rate. Its transaction price was estimated at around 8,000 gold coins. The staff provided a massive plus 30 to intelligence and plus 300 to max mana, significantly increasing his magic spell strength and the combined output of his necromancy summons and corpse explosion. It was a game changer. With the loot secured, Chen Xi tapped the glowing Leave Dungeon button on his interface. The world around him dissolved into light, and he was transported back to the overworld. Outside the dungeon lobby, at the teleportation array, the masked operative was waiting, but he wasn't expecting what he was about to see. He was leaning against a wall, rubbing his tired eyes, having just waded through what he assumed would be a failed attempt. He had been certain Chen Xi would bail out of the party dungeon halfway through. Then a bright blue pillar of light erupted from the teleportation circle. The masked man spun around, his eyes widening in disbelief. Chen Xi stepped out of the array, fully equipped with his new frost mole robe, the heavy armor greaves, and the glowing bone staff of the cold marrow in his hand. The masked man stared, his mind struggling to process the scene. Only a bit over 20 minutes? He muttered. A level 5 Shadow Mage solo cleared Frostmaw Cavern? He shook his head, refusing to believe it. No way. He must have bailed halfway through. But then his eyes focused on Chen Xi's gear, and his jaw dropped. What? The Frost Marrow robe? The Frost Marrow staff? Cold sweat dripped down the operative's face. He had just witnessed something that should have been impossible. The masked operative stared at Chen Xi as he walked away from the teleportation array, his mind racing. First run in Frostmaw Cavern, and he already dropped the Frostmaw robe and the Frostmaw staff. That only happens if he cleared it. He clenched his fist, realizing why Jiang Minghua had been keeping such a close watch on this kid. No wonder Miss has been keeping him under watch. This guy is broken beyond reason. He quickly tapped his communicator. Miss, but before he could continue, Jiang Minghua's voice cut in from the other side, asking why he was so quiet and if something had happened with Chen Xi again. The operative took a breath and delivered the news. Chen Xi just entered another dungeon. Her voice cracked with disbelief. Again. He confirmed it, adding, last run, Chen Xi solo cleared Frostmaw Cavern in 23 minutes. He came out wearing the Frostmaw robe and holding the Frostmaw staff. On the other side of the call, Jiang Minghua was in the middle of a fight. A massive armored beast lunged at her, but she sidestepped it, her eyes going wide. What? He made it out alive? Solo clear in 23 minutes. She processed the information, her thoughts racing. Just as I thought. With 150 mental power, even a Shadow Mage was never going to be mediocre. Even with a hidden class, it'd be hard to match that kind of efficiency. She glanced down at her own status. I have people power leveling me, and I only just hit level 2. Yet that so-called early-game trash Shadow Mage shot up to level 5 in a single morning. A cold realization settled in her chest. The gap between us is so much wider than I thought. He's still that same genius, standing head and shoulders above everyone else. Her mind spiraled as she tried to piece together his secret. How is he doing this? A level 5 Shadow Mage only has 2 skills, Summon Undead and Corpse Explosion. 2 summon slots, 2 detonations, 10-minute cooldown. That's all he has. So how is he clearing hundreds of regular mobs in Frostmaw Cavern, 3 elites, and the boss, the Frostmaw King, on his own? Her eyes narrowed. Don't tell me he's speed clearing without taking a single hit. A perfect solo run. No damage taken? Is there anything more absurd than this? Back at the dungeon lobby, Chen Xi stepped out of another teleportation circle, his expression completely relaxed. The masked operative watched him, utterly baffled. Is grinding dungeons alone really this much fun? Chen Xi, oblivious to the staring, strolled through the cold cavern with his skeletal army trailing behind him. Honestly, it's pretty relaxing, he said with a light chuckle. I'll wrap up around dinner time and call it a day. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the city in the warm glow of dusk. Evening, a time marker read as Chen Xi emerged from the dungeon once more, wiping his brow. The masked operative, now permanently stationed nearby, updated his report. He's out. This run, 16-minute clear of Frostmaw Cavern, and he's hit level 8. Mississippi. He paused, then muttered to himself, should he keep going? Looks like that's it for today. As he walked away, the operative called out, get some rest. I'm already nearby. Chen Xi strolled through the streets at sunset, tapping open his inventory interface. The grid was packed with loot, blue-grade items, a purple gauntlet, and more. All of this can be sold at the trading post for gold, he mused. That purple gauntlet is worth a lot, but it's not my type. He swiped through the inventory, then stopped at one specific item, a glowing ancient scroll. So, he pulled it out, unrolling it in the evening light. The real treasure is this. It was a level 10 rift pact. The item's description revealed its function. It could unlock a level 10 rift dungeon. Rift dungeons required a party of 2 to 5 players, but the EXP was plentiful and the gear drops were exceptional. While running 5-player dungeons, there was a small chance of dropping such a rare pact. A single pack scroll could sell for 3 to 400 gold at the trading post, but Chen Xi didn't care about the gold, he cared about the EXP and top-tier drops waiting inside. But there was a problem. The only problem is I need a party member. Who should I ask? As he pondered the question, a familiar voice rang out from behind him. What a coincidence. Chen Xi turned to see Jiang Minghua approaching with a casual wave. She called out again, it really is a coincidence. Chen Xi's eyes flickered with quiet recognition. That young guy who's been staring at me this whole time. He glanced past her toward the shadows where the masked operative lurked. He's clearly from the Jiang family. But he said nothing, just watched as Jiang Minghua closed the distance, clearly eager to talk. Chen Xi held up the glowing scroll, meeting Jiang Minghua's gaze. I heard you soloed a dungeon, he said, pausing before continuing. Got time to run one together? He tapped the scroll for emphasis. If you're interested, we'll pop this tomorrow. We split the rewards 30-70 in my favor. How's that sound? Jiang Minghua's eyes widened as she recognized the item. This is a rift pact? Where did you get this? Chen Xi shrugged casually. Lucky drop. Though the level's on the low side, it's a level 10 dungeon. He tilted his head, offering her the chance. Come with me and we'll run it. If not, I'll find someone else. Huh. Jiang Minghua looked taken aback by the blunt offer. But after a moment, a smile broke across her face. I'm in. Of course I'm in. She replied enthusiastically. Chen, she nodded. Then it settled. See you tomorrow. As she turned and walked off quickly, Chen Xi watched her go, muttering under his breath, running off that fast. The next day arrived, and Chen Xi made his way to the academy. A notification explained that after a job change, students were still required to check in daily for the first month. The academy would correct growth paths and explain dungeon mechanics and party rules. But more importantly, today was the first day the rookie level rankings went live. As Chen Xi walked through the academy gates, the courtyard was buzzing with students, some in gear, some mingling, while a sleek black luxury car pulled up nearby. Inside, Jiang Minghua sat beside her father, Jiang Jingwei. He looked out the window, shaking his head at the excited students. It's the same every year. New class holders get hyped over gear and can't help but show off. He turned to his daughter and asked Minghua, how's your level 5 progress going? Jiang Minghua replied, I grinded all afternoon yesterday. I'm at level 5 over 80%. I'll switch to dungeons today. Hitting level 6 won't be a problem. Her father nodded approvingly. Not bad. That pace should put you first in this year's batch, right? Jiang Minghua's expression turned thoughtful. In her mind, a silhouette of Chen Xi appeared, her father's words echoing as she thought about his true level. Hard to say what rank, but definitely not first. He's already level 8. No way I'm beating that. She changed the subject quickly, stepping out of the car. Dad, I'm running a dungeon with a friend after morning assembly. You don't need to send anyone to escort me today. Hold it, her father called out. I'll be at the school later representing Destiny Contract Guild for recruitment. The rookie rankings go live today, so I'll be checking them too. Jiang Minghua smirked as she walked away, silently thinking, no way my daughter's in first place. You're in for a disappointment, old man. Inside the auditorium, the seats filled with anxious students. Chatter buzzed through the crowd. The rookie rankings just updated. Someone shouted. Others exchanged levels. What level is everyone? On the first day, level 5 is basically the cap. I'm sick of grinding in party hunts. I'm only level 3. I just slept. Level 2 feels pretty good. And one student confidently added, no need to ask Zhang Menghuai's first, right? Hidden classes are busted. Among the crowd, young Master Lu sat with Chen Lucy, arms crossed. Spotting Chen Xi walking down the aisle, he called out mockingly, Chen Xi, what level are you? Chen Xi glanced at him but said nothing, simply passing by. Lucy and I are both level 4, Lu continued, his voice dripping with condescension. You at least hit level 2, right? He grinned, tapping his temple. The rankings are about to go up. Just wait and see. Chen Xi sat down quietly, ignoring the taunts. Lu leaned forward, smugly adding, the rookie rankings only show the top 30. You're not on it, so how would I know? The lights dimmed, and two figures stepped onto the stage. The announcer introduced them, Principal Li Mingtian, and right beside him, Zhang Zhengwei, the Grand Executor of the Destiny Contract Guild, Skywing City Branch. The whispers rippled through the auditorium as students recognized the figures on stage. It really is Zhang Zhengwei. Someone murmured. Menghuai's dad. Another student grinned, leaning back in their seat. Someone's about to steal the show today. Not far from the stage, Xingwei sat with Qin Lucy, his smug expression intact. But a stern voice cut through the chatter. A nearby classmate warned him, Xingwei, the school leaders are all seated. Save your trash talk for later. Xingwei smirked, glancing at Qin Shi across the aisle. At least you know your limits. A hush fell over the hall as Principal Li Mingtian stepped forward, raising a hand. Same as every year, he began, his voice calm but commanding. I'll be leading morning assembly on your first day post-awakening. No class is inherently noble or lowly. This path will be with you for life. He paused, his gaze sweeping the crowd. The rookie rankings open today. But don't let your placement shake your resolve. I know the thing you care about most is the board itself. So I won't keep you in suspense. Let's show the rankings. With a sweeping gesture, a massive screen flickered to life above the stage. The students leaned forward as the list began to populate. Xingwei's grin widened as he caught his own name. See that? I'm 22nd. Lucy's 21st. He turned to Chen Xi, his voice dripping with mockery. From here on out, the gap between us will only grow wider. You'll never be able to lift your head in front of me. Chen Xi didn't answer. His gaze remained fixed on the screen as the numbers climbed higher. The crowd gasped when Jiang Minghuai's portrait appeared at the second-place slot. Her father, Jiang Zhengwei, nearly shot out of his seat, his face a mask of disbelief. Wow, second place. The murmurs spread like wildfire. No way. Jiang Menghua is only second. Then who's first? Why isn't it showing yet? Jiang Zhengwei stared at his daughter, his mind racing. She already knew she wasn't number one. Xing Wei leaned over and sneered at Chen Xi once again, too caught up in his own victory. You didn't even make the top 30. Still stuck at level 1.5, I bet. Principal Li Mingtian held up a hand, calling for quiet. You're probably wondering why first place is taking so long to appear. This year is indeed special. For the first time, we've seen someone reach level 8 in a single day. So we decided to save that name for last. He snapped his fingers, and the screen flickered. The spotlight shifted to a single image. Chen Xi, standing in his familiar white R17 shirt, his expression calm and unreadable. The text beneath it read, Rank 1, Level 8 Shadow Mage Chen Xi. A wave of stunned silence crashed over the entire auditorium. Then the shock broke into a torrent of gasps and cries. Level 8. Shadow Mage. A standard class. Xing Wei's face drained of color. His eyes bulged as he stumbled to his feet, the cool, arrogant smirk replaced by raw disbelief. Hey, level 8. First place. This has to be wrong. He's just a shadow mage. Qin Lucy stared from her seat, her hands clenched tightly in her lap as she watched Chen Xi. Her voice was barely a whisper, laced with bitter regret. Did I bet on the wrong horse? Around them, the hall erupted in chaos. Students demanded answers, craning their necks to catch a glimpse of the mysterious shadow mage who had dethroned an SSS class prodigy. Xing Wei stood frozen, refusing to accept what he was seeing. I don't believe this, he hissed through gritted teeth. The auditorium erupted in stunned chatter. Students couldn't process what they'd just seen. He awakened as a Shadow Mage, but level 8? One student blurted out. Another leaned forward, frowning. How did he level that fast? That makes no sense. A girl with teal hair looked around, asking, has anyone in the Academy's history ever hit level 8 on day 1? Her friend shook his head. Forget level 8, no one's even hit level 6 or 7 before. From his seat on the stage, Principal Li Mingtan adjusted his glasses, his mind already at work. A Shadow Mage hitting level 8 on the first day was unprecedented, but then again, so was Chen Xi's 150 mental power. He knew exactly who was behind it. Unless a top clan completely locks down a wild zone, drives everyone else out, monopolizes monster spawns, and stacks an expensive party contract with 4 people power leveling 1. At best, you'd hit level 6 on day 1. Level 7 is already rare. Level 8 has literally never happened. Meanwhile, Chen Lucy sat in the crowd, her inner voice laced with regret. If I'd run dungeons with him yesterday, I'd definitely be in the top 3. And in the front row, Xing Wei was fuming. He had just been told he still needed to push himself, but all he could focus on was the boy beside him. Damn it, he's just a Shadow Mage. How can he? Damn it. Principal Li scanned the room with a satisfied smile. Looks like this year's class really is full of hidden monsters. Not bad, worth some praise. On the other side of the hall, Zhang Jingwei stared intently at Chen Xi, his thoughts dark and calculating. Manhwa kept bringing up Shadow Mages yesterday, and this morning she was certain she wouldn't take first. She must know something. He folded his arms, keeping his eyes locked on the boy. Principal Li moved on with the assembly. Next, as usual, I'll briefly go over what you need to watch out for when running dungeons and fighting wild monsters after awakening. He gave a standard safety briefing, wrapping up with, that's about all for now. If any of you still have questions, feel free to speak with your homeroom instructors in detail. Assembly dismissed. The students filed out into the sunlit courtyard, the shock still fresh on their faces. As they walked, muttered comments followed Chen Xi's name. Anyone who can hit level 8 on day 1 really isn't normal. He's insane. Outside, Chen Xi was making his way toward the exit when Chen Lucy caught up to him. She reached out, calling him back. Hey, Chen Xi, I'm sorry about yesterday. He stopped, turning his head just slightly. About what? His tone was flat. She seemed taken aback by his coldness, thinking, he never used to cut me off like that. She quickly tried to recover. Are you heading out to level? Let's party up. Chen Xi didn't hesitate. Sorry, I already have a teammate. Chen Luce's expression fell. She pressed forward, her voice desperate. Can you just forget what I said yesterday? I was just talking nonsense in the heat of the moment. Chen Xi looked her in the eye, his voice firm. Chen Lucy, you're the one who said it, that we're from different worlds. It's only been a day. Did you already forget how you felt before? Before she could respond, a voice cut through the tension. Chen Xi, you're not planning to swap teammates last minute, are you? Zhang Minghuai stepped up beside him with a knowing smile. Chen Xi answered simply, no. Chen Lucy's eyes went wide. Why your teammate is Zhang Minghuai? She stood frozen as Zhang Minghuai turned away. Then let's go. The two walked off together, leaving Lucy behind. She watched them go, muttering under her breath, it's actually Zhang Minghuai. Elsewhere, in a luxurious private room, Xing Wei stood before his father, Xing Luo, a regular member of the Destiny Contract Guild. Xing Luo sat back on a blue couch, stirring his tea, his brow furrowed. Level 8. He muttered. Xing Wei nodded stiffly. That's right, level 8. The rookie rankings don't lie. Xing Luo's jaw tightened, his grip on the teacup firm. All these years, he's been pressing me down in the branch. He's never once looked me in the eye. And now Zhang Minghuai's getting close to Chen Xi. He took a slow sip, then set the cup down with a heavy look. This is turning bad. Xing Wei leaned in with a nervous question. Do you mean Zhang Menghua is trying to recruit Chen Xi? Xing Luo shook his head. No, a newbie Shadow Mage isn't even worth my attention. He stroked his chin, eyes narrowing. If Zhang Zhengxiong is telling Zhang Minghuai to cozy up to him, it's most likely for some piece of gear he's carrying. Xing Wei blinked. Some piece of gear? He grew up in the slums. How could he have anything good on him? Xing Luo leaned forward, his tone sharp. There is no way to hit level 8 in a single day, no matter how you do it. Even if you put together the 4 most optimal classes and use a party contract to reduce penalties, it still wouldn't be possible. Unless he paused, eyes narrowing. Unless Chen Xi has some item on him that boosts EXP gain. That's the only explanation. Xing Wei frowned. But he's not even level 10 yet, and gear that boosts EXP gain is insanely expensive. He wouldn't even meet the level requirement. Xing Luo countered, unless that item has no level requirement. His voice grew grim. If it really is a no-level requirement EXP boost item, its value is immeasurable. Any faction that gets it could mass-train recruits at high speed. If Zhang Zhengxiong gets his hands on it, or if the Sua family starts using it, we'll be left in the dust. Xing Luo raised a finger, his expression cold and decisive. There's still time. Kill him. That item must end up in the Xing family's hands. Xing Wei clenched his fists, a ruthless grin spreading across his face. Right. Kill him. Wash away our shame in one stroke. Meanwhile, Chen Xi and Zhang Manhwa had ventured far beyond the safety of the city. They arrived at the ruins of Mistshade Village, a foggy, abandoned settlement from the old world. After global datafication, people had gathered in main cities like Skywing City, leaving old villages in the wild mostly deserted. Zhang Manhua paused, glancing at the mist ahead. You sure about going further? Any further, and it gets dangerous. Chen Xi didn't slow down. Ahead was the territory of level 13 Mistshade Marauders. He glanced at his rift-packed indicator and replied, we're close. The rift-packed indicator says we're within 50 meters. Once we pinpoint the exact coordinates, we can open the rift dungeon. A system pop-up detailed the Marauders' behavior. They had an active alert radius of about 20 meters. If they sensed continuous movement or fresh blood in the wind, they would spew mist powder and rush in for the kill. But before they could reach the coordinates, a sudden heavy impact shook the ground. A massive, shadowy figure landed behind them, blocking their path. More figures emerged from the fog, 3 armed assassins. The leader, a hooded man with twin blades, stepped forward with a smirk. When I took this job, I thought it'd be hard to get an opening. Newbies usually either hug the city walls to grind monsters or run level 5 dungeons. Opportunities are rare. He twirled his blade. Never thought you'd walk out of the city by yourself. Makes our lives a lot easier. Chen Xi tightened his grip on his staff. What's that supposed to mean? The assassin chuckled darkly. You've got a piece of gear on you that the Xing family is very interested in. They put a name on your head, and they'll pay it off the deal. Bad luck for you. You were short on cash, so we took the contract. Chen Xi's eyes narrowed as he processed the information. Xing family? You mean Xing Wei's clan? He paused, running through the logic in his head. I've had my clashes with him, but would he really go as far as hiring a kill order? Is this really over some gear? He glanced at his bone staff. It's purple and rare, sure, but low level and not worth that much. Xing Luo's a high-level combatant and a guild member. There's no way he'd be eyeing that. Even if it were better gear, the Xing family can easily afford it. They wouldn't need to hire assassins. Other than this bone staff, the rest of my gear is just blue. Hardly worth anything. Chen Xi sighed, dismissing the confusion. Whatever. Not worth overthinking. He raised his staff, purple magical energy flaring around his hand. His eyes locked onto the assassins, cold and unwavering. You want to kill me? Then I'll kill you. It's that simple. At the entrance to White Mist Gorge, the 3 assassins fanned out, blocking Chen Xi and Zhang Mingwai's path. Chen's eyes darted across the open terrain, quickly assessing the situation. The terrain here is open, but it's disadvantageous for me and Zhang Mingwai. Before he could act, one of the assassins, the hooded leader, darted forward with blinding speed. In a flash, he was behind Zhang Mingwai, pressing a blade against her throat. Little girl, he hissed, I advise you not to touch the communicator. Touch it again, and it'll kill you right now. Zhang Mingwai froze, her eyes wide. So the Xing family sent you, she thought. But didn't they tell you my identity? She spoke aloud, her voice cold and steady. My father is Jiang Zhengxiong, Grand Deacon of the Destiny Covenant. Do you really dare to make a move? The hooded assassin laughed mockingly. So what if you're Jiang Zhengxiong's daughter? If we kill you here, who would know we did it? He sneered, pressing the blade closer. It really is great after the global datafication. Destroying evidence is much easier. Chen Xi raised a hand, stepping forward. Wait. The assassin's eyes narrowed. Trying to play tricks or begging for mercy. Chen Xi shook his head, his expression calm, almost convincing. There's no need to try bribing us. In this line of work, reputation is the most important thing, the assassin added. But Chen Xi pressed on with his offer. I finally managed to get a Rift Concord to drop, and I still want to take a look at the White Mist Gorge ahead. Otherwise, it'll truly die with regrets. It's secluded there. If you kill us, absolutely no one will find out. Once you kill us both, you can even run the Rift Dungeon and claim the dungeon rewards. Why not? The assassin's eyes widened with greed. Oh, you brat actually got such a good item to drop. He grinned maliciously. Quite sensible, finding your own burial site. He pointed forward. Go lead the way. Otherwise, we'll kill you right now. Chen, she smirked internally. He turned and started walking. They are assassins, extremely fast. The terrain here is open. Even if I summon skeleton soldiers with 0 cooldown for corpse explosion, there's a high chance I won't be able to keep them here. He glanced ahead. But once we reach the White Mist Gorge ahead, the terrain is narrow, and they won't be able to escape even with wings. Zhang Manhwa, walking beside him, shot him a worried look. The White Mist Gorge is narrow, easy to defend but hard to attack, making it even harder to escape. What exactly are you thinking? They led the trio deeper into the gorge. Suddenly, a loud buzz filled the air. A massive, moth-like creature with glowing red patterns on its wings shot out from the mist. Mist-scale demonic moth, level 13, the system identified it. The blue-haired assassin didn't even break stride. He leaped forward, swinging his twin blades. With a single powerful slash, he tore through the moth, bisecting it midair. The beast fell, defeated in one blow. Chen Xi watched, his mind already calculating. You 3 bros have such strong attacks. You can even one-shot mist-scale demonic moths. Your levels must be very high, right? The heavy-set assassin puffed out his chest proudly. Nonsense. The 3 of us are all level 18 assassins. Chen Xi nodded, a calm smile playing on his lips. Level 18. The level gap isn't too big. As long as I make good use of the terrain and my skills, I can kill them. But Zhang Manhwa, walking beside him, was sweating. For 3 level 18 assassins to kill a level 5 and a level 8 noob, it's simply too easy. We have absolutely no chance of winning. Why is he still so calm? They continued walking until a sign appeared, inside White Mist Gorge. A sudden rustle came from the mist behind them, a shadow moving low to the ground. The hooded assassin spun around, but before he could react, a massive, fiery orange beast lunged out of the fog. Mist Flame Tail Fox. Level 15, the system flashed. The fox's tail whipped through the air, a trail of fire streaking behind it. It slammed into the blue-haired assassin, sending him crashing into the ground. The fox then turned, its blazing eyes locking onto the heavy-set man, who let out a startled cry as it lunged for him next. The hunters had become the hunted. The 3 assassins surrounded the mist-flame tail fox, launching a brutal assault. Blades and axes tore into the beast from every angle, drenching the ground in blood as it let out a final, agonized whimper and collapsed. A caption noted that a level 15 monster couldn't be one-shot by them. It took 2 or 3 hits to bring it down. The hooded leader turned, his patience wearing thin. Are we there yet? Where's the exact location? Stop dawdling. Chen Xi pointed ahead, leading them deeper into the fog. The path was short, only a little over 20 meters, and ended in a dead end surrounded by rock walls on 3 sides, making it impossible to escape. A perfect spot for murder and robbery, like catching turtles in a jar. It's right inside here, Chen Xi said calmly, gesturing for them to follow. The assassin grinned, eager for the payout. Killing, looting, and unlocking a dungeon, all in one go. We didn't come for nothing. Chen Xi walked ahead, a dark thought crossing his mind. We were still wondering how to make them go in first, but they are quite proactive. He stopped at the edge of the dead end and turned around, a cold smile forming on his lips. If that's the case, then it's easy. With a burst of purple energy, he slammed his staff into the ground. Summoned shadows. Dark magic exploded from him, and multiple armored skeletons clawed their way out of the rocky terrain, rising to flank him. The assassin stopped short. Huh? What do you mean, brat? The leader snarled, narrowing his eyes. Zhang Menghuai watched from the side, baffled. Why is he suddenly summoning skeleton soldiers? The big man laughed heartily. You want to exchange a few moves before you die. With these two broken bags of bones, the others joined in the mockery. Chen Xi didn't flinch. We never expected you to just submit obediently anyway. But we also didn't expect you to be this hilarious. There's no need to exchange move, he said, the grin on his face turning sharp. I intend to send you on your way right here. Chen Xi stood his ground, a calm smile on his face. No need for a sparring match. I'm planning on sending you all to the afterlife right here. The assassins burst into laughter. Kid, did you rot your brain with all that studying? Do you not understand the level gap? This is fate, and courage can't bridge it. The hooded leader raised his blade, sneering, You think you can kill the three of us all by yourself? You're daydreaming. Zhang Menghuai's eyes darted between them, her mind racing. Is he acting out of desperation? A level 8 Shadow Mage against 3 level 18 assassins. He certainly has no chance of winning. But her doubt was cut short. A sharp chill ran down her spine as the air itself seemed to grow heavy. Chen Xi raised a staff, summoned shadow soldiers. More. The ground darkened, and a massive wave of dark energy pulsed outward. The assassin's eyes widened. He's summoning. Skeletal warriors erupted from the shadows in an unending tide, their armor clanking as they formed a literal wall of bone and steel. Something's wrong. The leader stammered, a bead of cold sweat running down his face. How are there so many? The big man shouted. Is this really the basic summon undead skill? Zhang Menghuai gasped, her eyes wide with realization. So that's it. An undead army with no cooldown. No wonder he could solo the Frost Mole Cave. In a level 5 dungeon, a formation like this is a bulldozer. No monster could possibly stand against it. Damn it. Does this kid not have a cooldown on his summons? The blue-haired assassin screamed. Kill him. Kill him now. Take advantage of his level. He's only level 8. If we don't kill him now, we're finished. The three charged, but Chen Xi was already in motion. He thrust his staff forward. Corps explosion. The skeletons in the front line detonated in a chain reaction of crimson blasts. The explosions ripped through the narrow gorge, engulfing the assassins in a storm of fire and shockwaves. The red damage numbers racked up, boom. Their HP bars plummeted. Press the attack, Chen Xi ordered coldly. More skeletons charged into the fray, detonating on contact. My HP is dropping too fast. The hooded leader cried out. If we keep getting worn down like this, we'll be blown to bits. Before he could finish, the blue-haired assassin vanished from the commotion, reappearing directly above Chen Xi. Kill, Shadow Strike. He roared. Shadow Strike. Chen Xi, watch out. Zhang Menghuai screamed. The assassin's blades plunged into Chen Xi. A hit? He grinned. But his joy was short-lived. Chen Xi's health bar didn't even move. Even if I didn't one-shot him, why didn't his health drop? How is this possible? Triple thrust. He unleashed a barrage of stabs, each one striking Chen Xi's chest. Chen Xi just stood there, his expression unchanged. A large skeleton appeared behind him, its eyes glowing red. Chen Xi looked at the assassin, a slight smile on his lips. I apologize, but your skills are futile against me. The assassin froze, his eyes wide with absolute shock. A text box explained it all, 2 skills for instances of damage. All of it was transferred to my skeletons through my Destiny Covenant trait. Before the blue-haired assassin could even think of retreating, Chen Xi's hand shot out and clamped down on his shoulder. A cold, commanding voice cut through the air. "Where do you think you're going?" The assassin froze, his heart pounding in his chest. Vincent, this guy is a total lunatic. One of the glowing red skeletons loomed behind Chen Xi, its fiery eyes burning with menace. With a sharp crack, Chen Xi's fingers tightened, and a massive shockwave erupted from the skeleton. The assassin was sent hurtling backward, tumbling across the ground before crashing hard against the rocky wall of the gorge. "Only you left," Chen Xi said, his voice calm and utterly devoid of emotion as he stared down at the hooded leader. "How would you like your final curtain call?" The leader clutched his wounded arm, trembling, before dropping to his knees. "Fighting for your life? Or on your knees?" He stammered, then broke. "Don't kill me. I have money, I'll give you money." He clawed at the ground, desperately begging. "I have gear too, I'll give you all of it. Please don't kill me." Chen Shi stared at the groveling assassin, a faint, chilling smile spreading across his face. Blood was smeared across his cheek from the earlier clash, but his eyes were bright with a terrifying calm. "If I kill you, everything becomes mine anyway." His smile widened, a glint of dark amusement flashing in his gaze. "Isn't that the rule you lot taught me first?" The hooded assassin knelt, trembling, his hands clasped together as he begged for his life. "If I beg for mercy, will you let me go?" Chen Shi stared down at him coldly. "I hate liars." Without waiting for a reply, Chen Shi raised his hand, and the glowing red skeletons behind him detonated in a chain of massive explosions. The assassin's screams were swallowed by the blast as the red shockwave consumed him completely. Chen Shi's mana bar had recovered a little. He looked at the burning aftermath, then raised his staff again. "Summon shadows." A fresh wave of cyan energy surged, and more skeletal warriors clawed their way out of the ground, reforming his army. He kept the legion around him as they moved deeper. "This is the White Mist Gorge. A mist-flamed tail fox could ambush us at any moment, so we can't be careless. Better keep a few more skeletons around as insurance." Zhang Manhwa remained silent. Chen Shi glanced at her. "What are you spacing out for?" "Start counting the loot. We agreed on a 70/30th split. Hurry up." Zhang Manhua blinked. Chen Shi knelt down and began sorting through the spoils himself. His hand dipped into a glowing bag of gold coins, pulling out handfuls of glimmering treasure. Wow. A system notification appeared. Acquired gold coins 85,000, purple gear, assassin exclusive 20, blue gear 51. Zhang Menghuai watched him count the coins with a small, chibi-like version of Chen Xi practically sparkling with excitement over the gold. She shook her head, a rueful smile touching her lips. "Compared to him, my hidden class is just too shabby." Chen Xi finished counting and looked up cheerfully. "Finished counting. A total of 150,000 gold coins. A 70/30th split means, 45,000 for you." Zhang Menghuai held up a hand, refusing the coins. "I don't want the gold coins. They're yours." Chen Xi's eyes widened. "You really don't want them? Then these assassin gears. You don't want them either?" His eyes practically sparkled with dollar signs. Zhang Menghuai shook her head. "None of it is appropriate. You saved my life. Consider this a thank you gift. It's all yours." Chen Xi's expression became serious, but his eyes still gleamed. Then it settled. "Next, let's go clear a rift dungeon. You can have all the EXP. I just want the dropped equipment and gold coins." They pressed forward through the mist with their skeletal escorts. Suddenly, a massive figure burst down from the cliffside above, landing heavily behind them. Zhang Menghuai spun around, her face paling as she shouted, "Watch out." A massive mist-flame tail fox lunged straight for Chen Xi, its blazing tail whipping through the air. Chen Xi didn't move. The fox slammed into him, claws and flames tearing at his body. For a split second, it seemed as though he was overwhelmed. But a chain of massive red explosions ripped outward from behind him. Chen Xi had summoned several more skeletons at the exact moment of impact and detonated them. The fox let out a final agonized cry as the blast tore it apart, dropping its lifeless body to the ground. Chen Xi stood unharmed, his legion already reforming. His skeletons continued to cut down every monster in the surrounding area. Wolves, birds, serpents, all of them falling before the endless tide of bone and steel. Zhang Menghuai looked at him, a mixture of awe and confusion on her face. How did you? Never mind. Since he doesn't want to talk about his class information, I shouldn't pry. She shook off the thought, then asked, Is there something on your mind? No. Chen Xi replied quickly. Zhang Minghuai sighed, giving up on the mystery, and pointed ahead. Let's go clear the Rift Dungeon. Logically speaking, a dungeon opened by a level 10 Rift Concord had the same difficulty as a level 10 party dungeon. With a combination of a level 8 Shadow Mage and a level 5 Void Wanderer, they shouldn't force their way in. Most people would choose to sell the Concord or hire a higher tier player to clear it for them. But Rift dungeons were different from party dungeons. They could be cleared solo. In fact, they required a party of 2 to 5 people just to enter. Zhang Menghuai wiped a tear from her eye, watching Chen Xi crouch by the dead Mistflame Tail Fox. Chen Xi pulled me into the party mostly just to meet the minimum player requirement. He isn't expecting me to deal damage. I was just dragged along to make up the numbers, boo. 10 minutes later, Chen Xi stood before a swirling blue portal. He tapped the interface, and a prompt appeared. Enter dungeon? Yes/no. He pressed yes, and the portal flared to life. Zhang Minghuai stepped up beside him, a soft smile on her face. I believe in you. Chen Xi didn't reply, but his grip on his staff tightened. He stepped through the glowing blue rift, his foot landing on dry, dusty ground. The air was thick with heat, and the canyon walls loomed around them. Zhang Menghuai gasped, pointing ahead. It's a level 10 black-armored rock mastiff. The massive beast stood at the far end of the canyon, a hulking creature made of jagged rock, with molten orange light glowing through the cracks in its stone armor. A system panel identified it, black-armored rock mastiff, level 10. Rift dungeons were independent of normal dungeons. Their levels were fixed, and the monsters were random. There was only one boss and several minor mobs, with no elite monsters. Zhang Menghuai looked at Chen Xi, her voice serious. Their attack speed isn't high, but every charge is extremely ferocious. Their armor is thick, and their defense is high, so be very careful. Chen Xi raised a hand, his expression calm. It's fine, let's begin. He slammed his staff into the ground, and a massive wave of dark magic erupted. Skeletal soldiers poured out of the shadows in an endless tide, filling the canyon from end to end. The ground shook as the Bone Legion marched forward, their armor clanking, their blue eyes burning with an unearthly light. The black-armored rock mastiff let out a deafening roar, its molten veins flaring bright. The beast crouched, bracing itself for a charge. Chen Xi stood at the front of his army, his eyes locked on the monster. He raised his hand, then let it fall. Kill. Shinzai's skeletal legion swarmed the black-armored rock mastiff, but their blades simply scraped against its stone-like hide. The beast remained completely unscathed, its massive health bar barely moving. Chen Xi narrowed his eyes, analyzing the situation. The black-armored rock mastiff's armor has insane defense. My skeleton's blunt attacks can barely scratch it. Zhang Menghuai stepped forward, raising her hand. Let me help, but Chen Xi cut her off instantly. No need. She pulled back, a pout forming on her face as she muttered internally. He's treating me like a total carry-along. Without missing a beat, Chen Xi raised his bone staff and pointed it directly at the beast. In an instant, the skeleton surrounding the boss began to glow with a burning red light. A massive chain of corpse explosions ripped through the canyon, the blast damage tearing right through the mastiff's heavy armor. The beast let out a pained roar as its health bar plummeted. See? It couldn't even take one hit, Chen Xi said with a smirk. He glanced back at Zhang Menghuai, adding, Since you're not splitting the loot or gold with me, just think of this as a nice EXP share. She just stared at him in silence. But his smirk faded as another massive explosion rocked the ground. The barrage was relentless. Then a clear, melodic ding echoed through the air. A system notification appeared. Party successfully killed black-armored rock mastiff. Gained 180 EXP. Chen Zai's eyes widened. What? Zhang Menghuai looked just as shocked. Are you for real? This EXP, it's way more than I expected. Chen Xi quickly calculated in his head. It's almost triple what a level 5 frost mole gives. But the difficulty is barely any higher. This is a gold mine. Including the penalty, a mob in the wild only gives 60 EXP tops. Farming here is at least 6 times more efficient. Well then, the rest is simple. A relentless barrage of notifications flooded the screen as they cut through the rest of the mobs. EXP plus 180, EXP plus 180, EXP plus 180. The farm was devastatingly efficient. Chen's eyes gaze swept across the loot scattered on the ground. Rift dungeons don't just give massive EXP. The drop rates are way higher than regular dungeons too. Just clearing these mobs dropped a dozen blue tier items and even one purple tier. He crouched down, inspecting the spoils. Too bad the traits are all for heavy armor and earth types. They don't fit us mages at all. But if we put these in the auction house, they'll sell for a fortune. Suddenly, Chen Xi paused, his senses tingling. He looked up sharply. Wait, I think I feel it. Zhang Manhwa blinked. Feel what? Then, another ding rang out. A colossal pillar of golden light erupted around Zhang Manhwa. A massive holographic screen materialized in the air. Zhang Manhwa has reached level 6. A soft whoa escaped her lips as the light faded. She looked down at her hands, a triumphant smile breaking across her face. I leveled up. I'm level 6 now. Chen Xi gave her a warm smile. Congrats. Zhang Manhwa turned to him, her expression softening into a genuine, grateful look. She reached out and placed a hand on his head. Thank you for inviting me to your party, even though I didn't help at all. Chen Xi smiled back. No one else wanted to party with me anyway, so I should be the one thanking you. She laughed softly. Then I guess we're even. Suddenly, a burst of energy shot into the sky, splitting the clouds. A massive, clawed shadow descended upon them. The ground shook violently. Dust and debris scattered, and 2 figures stood in the distance. A gigantic, golden lion made entirely of crystalline rock, its mane jagged and sharp, its eyes burning with a fierce light. A label appeared above it, Mastiff King, level 15. It was the true boss of this rift dungeon. A massive golden beast, far bigger and more imposing than the normal mastiffs they had just cleared. Behind Chen Xi and Zhang Manhwa, a vast army of skeletal soldiers assembled, filling the canyon with an unending tide of bone and steel. The Mastiff King let out a deafening roar, its body pulsing with a terrible energy. A system notification revealed its skills, rock armor fortify, death, shatterstone howl, ATK. Chen Xi held his staff, his eyes locked onto the golden monster. His legion of skeletal warriors surged forward, swarming the beast from all sides. The first wave of skeletons lit up with red energy, exploding in a massive chain of blasts. The explosions rocked the canyon, engulfing the Mastiff King. Go. A pained grunt escaped the beast's lips as the damage piled on. Chen Xi didn't give it a moment's rest. He prepared his next move, ready to keep the pressure on the boss until it finally fell. Chen Xi watched the Mastiff King stagger, its massive golden form glistening as a layer of rock armor peeled away. A sharp realization hit him. It actually stacked up armor equal to its total HP. A wide grin spread across his face as he tightened his grip on his staff. Which means, I can finally cut loose on you, right? He thrust his staff forward, and the entire skeletal legion lit up with a blinding red glow. A deafening chorus filled the canyon as every single skeleton detonated in a chain reaction. Explosion after explosion ripped through the Mastiff King, the crimson blast tearing through its rocky armor and its health bar simultaneously. The beast let out a pained groan as its defenses crumbled and it collapsed under the relentless bombardment. The sky overhead flashed as a massive rift portal tore open. A system notification blared. Party successfully killed Black Armored Rock Mastiff. Gained 500 EXP. Chen Xi and Zhang Manhwa both stared as the drop screen materialized. It was a jackpot. Blue tier gear X2, purple tier gear X2, gold coins, and at the very bottom, a glowing ornate chest piece, gold tier gear X1. Gold tier gear. Chen Xi shouted, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Even though it's heavy armor with earth traits, this could sell for at least 100,000 gold at the auction house. Zhang Manhwa shook her head in disbelief. Your luck is insane. Even with rift dungeon rates, legendary gear drops are still pathetic. Getting one is a miracle. Chen Xi scooped up the loot and gestured toward the rift. Let's head out. The two of them stepped back through the glowing portal, the gold coins scattered around them as they disappeared. Meanwhile, inside the luxurious Xing family estate, Xing Wei sat nervously across from his father, Xing Luo. The atmosphere was tense. Xing Wei cleared his throat. "Father, don't worry too much. Maybe those three assassins just manually turned on Do Not Disturb mode. It doesn't mean something went wrong." Xing Luo rubbed his temples, a vein throbbing in his forehead. "Humph. Manually offline? I sent them to kill Chen Xi, and not a single word has come back. No progress report, no confirmation of Chen Xi's death. And all three go offline at the exact same time? Is there such a thing as a coincidence in this world?" He slammed his fist on the table, his voice turning low and dangerous. "But if they're really dead, how?" They were hunting a level 8 Shadow Mage and a level 5 rookie. With their strength, how could they be counter-killed? Unless someone else intervened? Was it the Jiang family? Did they step in to help Chen Xi? Xing Wei raised a finger, trying to sound helpful. And most importantly, is Chen Xi dead or not? Did they get that level-less gear I told him to find? He paused, a new worry crossing his mind. "Father, I just thought of something. What if those three got the gear from Chen Xi and got greedy? What if they betrayed us and ran?" Xing Luo's eyes narrowed. "That gear is priceless. After all, it's not impossible for them to be tempted." He slammed his hand down again, standing up. "Useless. All of you are useless. Now did I not consider that? If they actually dared to run with my gear, I'll tear them into 1,000 pieces and scatter their ashes." Before he could finish his threat, the servant burst into the room, his face pale with panic. "Master. Young master. This is bad." Xing Wei spun around. The servant stammered, "News just came in. Chen Xi and Jiang Manhwa have returned from outside the city. They're perfectly fine, not a scratch on them." Xing Wei's face went white. "What? They came back alive?" Xing Luo's jaw tightened, his face shadowed with fury. "Chen, he's actually alive." He spat out the words, barely containing his rage. "Those three useless trashes. They failed."
Back in the Xing family estate, Xing Wei stared at his father, a flicker of hope in his eyes. Chen Xi. Chen Xi isn't dead, so those three are either actually dead or have gone offline. It'd be mad to make a move on him later. Xinglo frowned deeply, his voice cold. "That's not what you should be worried about. You should be worried about the fact that you clearly hired assassins to kill a student. Nobody should know about it." He drummed his fingers on the table. "Now, what should we do about this then?" Xinglo narrowed his eye, a cold, calculating light flashing through it. "We'll put this matter on hold for now. Keep an eye on the news, and keep trying to contact those three. I want to know everything that happened today. Don't miss a single detail." Meanwhile, at the Jiang residence, Xing Manhwa walked into her home and was greeted by a familiar face sitting on the couch. She smiled brightly. "Uncle Lo, you're here." The man turned. Lo Fan, core member of the Central Destiny Covenant Association. Before he could greet her, her father, Zhong Zhongsheng, burst in from the side, his face red with anger. "Girl, where did you run off to?" Zhang Menghuai brushed past him casually. "Didn't I tell you I made plans with a friend to run dungeons?" "All right, Dad, I'm already level 6. Zhong Zhongsheng froze, his jaw dropping. "Level 6? Lo Fan laughed in surprise. "Menghuai, it's only the second day and you're already level 6. Truly, the student has surpassed the master." Zhang Menghuai winked at him. "Thanks, Uncle Lo. If my dad praised me the way you do, I'd be a much more filial daughter." Zhang Zhongsheng cleared his composure, trying to regain his composure. "I'll ask you about exactly what happened later. I have urgent matters to discuss with your Uncle Lo, so go wait on the side for now." He turned to Lo Fan, his tone turning serious. "Old Lo, let's get back to business." Zhang Menghuai quietly sat down on the couch, picking up a book to read. "Should I tell Dad and Uncle Lo about Chen Xi?" she wondered internally, a thoughtful expression on her face. Lo Fan leaned forward, his face grim. "There are two key problems right now. First is the strategy for the level 60 raid dungeon, Black Dragon Mountain Range. Second is the national war coming up in a month." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Since it's currently the hottest period for talent generation, all countries are desperately trying to clear the Black Dragon mountain range, but the difficulty has been too high. We can't push through. Zhang Zhongsheng's brow furrowed. It's not about rushing. We simply can't afford to lose to the neighboring country. The first clear of the Black Dragon mountain range, at normal difficulty, is a huge boon for national prestige. Other countries have already secured the first clear. If we fall too far behind, the gap between us will only widen, and we will fall into a vicious cycle. Lo Fan nodded, wiping a bead of sweat from his forehead. And country isn't the only one keeping its eyes on us. Zhang Zhongsheng looked up. So, you came to me because you need my help? If the country needs me, I'll depart for the capital immediately and join the team clearing the Black Dragon mountain range. Lo Fan shook his head. Old Zhang, I came this time just to catch up and give you a heads up, nothing more.
Country A only barely cleared Black Dragon by forcing their way through with human wave tactics, but we can't just throw human lives at it like they did. If Chen Xi can grow rapidly within this month, the situation might be different. He paused, his eyes meeting Zhang Zhongsheng's. Putting aside whatever skills he might unlock later, just his endless skeleton summons combined with corpse explosion already equals the firepower of a small party, and that is just my conservative estimate of his strength. If he's willing to serve the country, the impact he'd make would be absolutely unprecedented. Of course, the premise is that he can grow rapidly over this next month. Zhang Manhwa looked up from her book, a spark of interest in her eyes. What if there was a person who could truly decide the outcome of the national war? A person who could play an overwhelming role in clearing the Black Dragon mountain range or even clear it solo? What kind of treatment would such a person receive? Luo Fan and Zhang Zhongsheng stared at her in stunned silence. Zhang Zhongsheng was the first to speak, his voice heavy with disbelief. A single person absolutely cannot play an overwhelming role in the national war, nor can they clear the Black Dragon mountain range solo. A single person's power is a contest of overall national strength. Luo Fan nodded gravely. Exactly, Manhwa. Stop letting your imagination run wild. Even though you have a hidden class, a large-scale raid dungeon like Black Dragon Mountain Range cannot be cleared without everyone's cooperation. At this stage, it's simply impossible for a single person to play an overwhelming role.
Zhang Manhwa pressed further, her eyes fixed on Luo Fan. I'm just saying what if. If there really were such a person, what kind of treatment would he receive? Luo Fan paused, his hand resting on the table, before answering with a serious tone. If such a person really existed, I can't estimate the exact treatment he'd get, but I can guarantee he would be considered a top-tier genius that Country C would devote the entire nation's resources to cultivate. He met her gaze, his voice firm. The word treatment wouldn't even do it justice. The country would treat him with state honors. Within the borders of Country C, he could do almost whatever he wanted. Zhang Manhwa suddenly snapped her book shut and stood up. I'm going to level up. She bolted out of the room, leaving her father and Uncle Luo staring after her in confusion. They both looked at each other with a bewildered, "What?" Hours passed. Inside a frozen, cavernous ruin labeled Hard Difficulty Frost Night Temple Cave, Chen Xi stood at the center of a vast, icy floor. His skeletal legion swarmed around him, cutting down a horde of frost-covered monsters. He had been grinding non-stop. A wall of express notifications flashed across the screen. EXP plus 80, EXP plus 80, EXP plus 80. His level up banners lit up in rapid succession. Level 8, Level 9, Level 10. He was finally Level 10. He walked past the corpse of a massive armored frost beast and noticed a purple shimmer on the ground. A purple piece of equipment. Too bad it's armor. I need shoes. What I need. He picked it up and instantly equipped the dropped boots. A Scion equip prompt appeared as the purple boots encased his feet in a cold purple glow. But his mind was fixed on something else. Upon reaching level 10, I can unlock the Shadow Mage's first control skill, Grasp of the Underworld. A glowing interface materialized in front of him, displaying the skill's details. Skill, Grasp of the Underworld. Cooldown, 2 minutes. Cost, 10 mana. Effect, releases dark tentacles to bind enemy units for 3 seconds. Control effects can stack infinitely.
Chen Xi stared at the glowing skill interface. Grasp of the Underworld was a beginner control skill for the Shadow Mage. The core of the magic system was never burst damage, it was control. Dictate the tempo, and the enemy is left with no choice but to be slaughtered. A 3-second bind was fleeting to others, but to him? 0 cooldown, no mana cap was in 10 meters. The binds could be stacked and refreshed as long as his mana held out. The enemy wouldn't even have the right to move a single finger. He just needed to stand perfectly still and reap the harvest. Suddenly, a new notification flashed. Level 10, new golden trait 11. Trait,
Hand of the Endless. Effect: for every enemy unit killed, skill casting range increases by 1 meter. There is no upper limit, enabling ultra-long distance attacks. Chen Xi's eyes widened. Killing one monster increases the range by 1 meter, and it doesn't specify a skill. This trait applies to all skills. In the late game, killing 1,000,000 monsters means increasing my casting range by 1,000,000 meters. By the time I can summon bone tyrants and mythical bone dragons, massacring a city from 1,000 miles away will just take a wave of my hand. After I unlock new skills with this trait, taking an enemy's head from 1,000 miles away will be effortless. So right now, as long as I clear a few more dungeons, my casting range will easily cover hundreds or even thousands of meters. Heh, well then I'm truly sorry. He raised his staff and smirked. Frost mole babies, you found the perfect place to die. His skeletal legion surged forward, cutting down the swarms of moles. The express notifications flooded the screen, over and over, as his army tore through them. Soon he encountered the dungeon boss. Frost Mole King, you're next. With a wave of his hand, he cast the skill, Grasp of the Underworld. The boss's head roared in frustration. Black tendrils erupted from the ground, wrapping around the king. The 3-second bind perfectly chained into the next cast, Grasp of the Underworld. The boss was permanently immobilized. It couldn't move. It couldn't attack. Chen Xi stepped forward, pointing his finger as the boss stood helplessly in front of his skeleton army. Corpse explosion. A massive chain of explosions ripped through the boss, tearing it apart from the inside out. The system displayed, Frost Mole King subjugation successful. A panel listed the clear stats: Hard Mode Frost Mole Cave, Normal Frost Mole X300, Elite Frost Mole X30, Frost Mole King Boss X1, casting range 800 meters. Chen Xi rested his chin on his hand, a satisfied smile curling his lips. Within 300 meters, infinite binds. Even ranged classes can only stand there and wait for death, unable to touch a single hair on my head. With Corpse Explosion, it's an instant kill. If I ran into those 3 assassins again right now, taking them out would be a breeze. He looked up, his stomach growling. I'm starving. Let's wrap up the farming for now. He waved his hand, and his skeletal army dissolved into shadows, disappearing into the air. He stepped out of the dungeon and walked through the sunlit streets, his mind already on the next step. The equipment he looted over the past 2 days should sell for a pretty penny. He arrived at the Grand Auction House building, 220,000 gold coins. Using this to buy items and equipment would only provide a temporary boost. However, my leveling speed far outpaces equipment upgrades, so there's no need to waste time and resources on that. Chen Xi walked through the streets, a thoughtful look on his face. I should wait until I reach a higher level. Only then will the bonus attributes of top-tier equipment provide a qualitative leap in power. It won't be too late to buy gear then. This is the optimal strategy. He nodded to himself. He arrived at the doors of a large, cross-topped building, the orphanage. He walked up the steps with a smile. Matron, I'm back. The kind older woman with auburn hair walked down to meet him, holding out an orange. I went to the orchard to pick these for you. She smiled warmly. I don't know what you've been so busy with, but you need to make sure you're eating well, okay? Chen Xi took the fruit. Yes, I know. The matron patted his shoulder gently. Run along now. Head back to your room and get some rest. Chen Xi went upstairs, collapsing onto his bed in his dark room. He held the orange up in front of his face, a deep, determined look in his eyes. Although the Shadow Mage is just an ordinary class, with the trait system, it's more than enough for me to crush any hidden class. As more traits continue to unlock, I need to work even harder to level up. A vivid memory flashed across his mind, a younger, chibi version of himself lying on the same bed, declaring, Uncle Lo, I will definitely become strong enough to stand by your side and fight alongside you. Suddenly, the window creaked open. Chen Xi sat bolt upright, startled. Jiang Mengwei climbed into his room and crouched on the floor. Chen Xi stared at her, a sweat drop forming on his head. Eldest Miss Jiang, skipping the door to climb through my window late at night, just to scare me. Jiang Mengwei looked up with a confident smile. I was just testing out my class skills. Chen Xi deadpanned. Hidden class skills aren't meant for scaling walls. Jiang Mengwei casually stood up and looked around his room. I figured a boy's bedroom would be a total mess. I didn't expect it to be this clean. Chen Xi crossed his arms, raising an eyebrow. That's a stereotype. Out with it. You didn't make a special trip here just to inspect my dorm room, did you? Jiang Mengwei turned to face him, her expression turning serious. Of course not. I just came to ask you, do you want to serve the country? Chen Xi blinked. Serve the country? Jiang Mengwei nodded eagerly. Yeah. Exactly, like joining the Destiny Covenant Association and officially serving the country. Chen Xi glanced to the side, his tone flat. That's exactly something I can just decide. Zhang Mengwei held up her finger with a bright, persuasive smile. I want to have my dad pull some strings for you. That way, your leveling efficiency will be way faster than it is right now. Plus, you gain access to cultivation resources that countless people can only dream of. It's much more efficient than grinding dungeons and hoarding resources all by yourself.
Chen Xi sat on the edge of his bed, his hand resting on his chin as he listened to Zhang Menghuai's offer. Zhang Menghuai's invitation used to be an obsession I could never reach. But now, I can join the guild completely on my own. It's just that my current confidence stems from the trait system, not from the normal progression of my class. A blade exposed is easily snapped. Until my foundation is secure, I absolutely cannot reveal this monstrous ability to the public. He looked at her and spoke calmly. Thank you for the invitation, but I know my limits. Now is not the time for me to join the Destiny Covenant. Zhang Menghuai leaned forward, persisting. With your abilities, the Destiny Covenant would definitely arrange a new residence for you. You wouldn't have to be stuck here anymore. Chen Xi let out a soft laugh. There's nothing wrong with the orphanage. I grew up here. Zhang Menghuai suddenly realized she had misspoken. Crap, I said the wrong thing. That's not what I meant. She quickly shifted the conversation. The Xing Consortium's failed assassination attempt will only lead to a more meticulous second strike. No matter how strong you are, the enemy is hiding in the shadows. They're impossible to completely defend against. Chen Xi fell silent, processing her words. Her concerns are valid. I'm not truly invincible. The damage transfer from Spirit Covenant protection only triggers when a summon is present. If I'm caught completely alone, a high-level assassin could silently take my life. Zhang Menghuai pressed her advantage. There's a chance. Furthermore, the national war is in exactly 1 month. Right now, Country C is struggling in the global arena, especially since the Destiny Covenant's hero, Lord Jianing, suddenly fell gravely ill. Chen Xi shot up, his eyes wide. What? What happened to Uncle Luo? Uncle Luo? He's a national hero? I just felt a sense of closeness. Zhang Menghuai continued. Right. What illness did he catch? Is it serious? She shook her head. I'm not entirely sure either. I only heard my Uncle Luo mention that he fell gravely ill, which allowed Country A to beat us to the punch. Chen Xi's expression hardened. The Black Dragon raid and the national war are imminent, and Uncle Luo just happened to fall gravely ill just now. That's too much of a coincidence. Take me to see your father and this Uncle Luo. If they show enough sincerity, I naturally won't refuse to serve the country. Zhang Menghuai's face lit up with excitement. Great! Let's go! Pack your things and head to my house. Chen Xi was taken aback. Huh? Right now? She grabbed his hand and pulled him up. What else? Look at the time. Are you still trying to get your beauty sleep? Hurry up. Once we get to my house, I'll have the kitchen whip up something good to replenish your energy. Minutes later, they arrived at the Zhang estate. Inside, Zhang Zhengsheng and Lo Fan were sitting at a large round dining table filled with dishes. Zhang Zhengsheng rubbed his temples, looking frustrated. Damn headache. Forget it. I'm done thinking about it. Let's drink. Just as he raised his glass, the door burst open. Dad! He looked up surprised to see his daughter walking in with Chen Xi. Manhwa, it's so late. Why aren't you resting? He froze when he saw the boy beside her. Chen Xi? His eyes narrowed, a thought flashing through his mind. No wonder Manhwa looked so confident earlier. Don't tell me those two are dating.
This girl actually brought a boyfriend home? Zhang Menghuai smiled brightly. Dad, I brought Chen Xi. Chen Xi gave a polite, albeit awkward, greeting. Hello, Uncle Zhang. Zhang Jingsheng took a long sip of his drink, his face flushed. So she was running dungeons with Chen Xi too. That brat, keeping everything from me. Wah! They grow up and leave you just like that. Chen Xi watched him, bewildered. What's wrong with Dad? Did he drink too much? Why does Senior Zhang look like a man whose prized cabbage just got snatched by a pig, and I get the feeling I'm the pig? Zhang Zhengsheng finally composed himself. Student Chen, take a seat first. He glanced at his daughter, muttering under his breath. He's just a shadow mage. Why would Manhwa bring him home this late? A boyfriend? Lo Fan, however, had a sharp glint in his eye. Old Zhang, do you remember that student from the Tiani City Academy I told you about 2 years ago, the one with a spirit stat of 150? Zhang Zhengsheng nodded. Naturally, a spirit stat of 150 is 1 in a million even on a national scale. Assuming he awakened a suitable class, he would certainly become... Lo Fan interrupted, pointing at the boy standing before them. Don't tell me it's this student right here. Zhang Menghuai confirmed it with a smile. Yes, that's him. She stepped forward, placing a hand on Chen Xi's shoulder. Dad, Uncle Lo, the reason I brought Chen Xi tonight is so you could meet him. Lo Fan smirked knowingly. Well, are you trying to introduce your new boyfriend to your uncle? Zhang Menghuai's face turned bright red. Uncle Lo, what nonsense are you spouting? Zhang Zhengsheng stared at his daughter with a heavy, wordless. Zhang Menghuai quickly cleared her throat, nudging Chen Xi. Chen Xi, quick, tell them. Chen Xi stepped forward, his voice firm. Senior Zhang, Senior Lo, I want to join the Destiny Covenant. Zhang Zhengsheng crossed his arms, his expression serious. Student Chen, the comprehensive assessment to select guild members isn't until next month. I'm afraid I cannot guarantee you the qualifications to even take the eval. Although reaching level 8 is quite astonishing, Zhang Menghuai cut him off proudly. Dad, Chen Xi is already level 10. Zhang Zhengsheng's eyes widened. Level 10? Chen Xi nodded. Yes, I just reached level 10 2 hours ago. Chen Xi's eyes flashed with confidence. Senior Zhang, Senior Lo, I am different from other Shadow Mages. I will definitely secure a spot in next month's assessment. Zhang Zhengsheng frowned, about to speak again. Student Chen, reaching level 10 in 2 days is impressive, but your class puts you in a rather awkward position. Leveling speed alone isn't enough to qualify you for the assessment. He leaned in. What are you doing? Without a word, Chen Xi raised his hand. A surge of dark energy erupted around him. He gripped his bone staff, holding it high. You'll see. A soft, menacing rattle filled the air. Rattle. The eyes of a skeletal helmet glowed to life behind him. Clack.
Zhang Zhengsheng stared at the skeletal legion materializing in his dining room, his face tight with skepticism. It's nothing but a Shadow Mage's basic summoning skill. This still isn't enough to... Chen Xi cut him off, a calm smile on his face. That was just the appetizer. Zhang Manhwa rested her chin on her hand, grinning at her father. Don't be so impatient, Dad. But as Chen Xi waved his hand, the room filled with an overwhelming, suffocating pressure. Skeleton after skeleton poured out from the shadows, packing the entire dining hall until there was barely any room left to stand. Zhang Zhengsheng and Luo Fan stared at the endless sea of bone and steel, their jaws dropping. What is this? Zhang Menghua gestured proudly at the army. And that is exactly why I introduced Chen Xi to you. Chen Xi stepped forward, his voice calm and unwavering. My skills have no cooldown. With enough mana, I can summon infinitely. Furthermore, this zero cooldown trait applies to all my skills, summoning, crowd control, and offensive magic. No exceptions. I've already soloed the Frost Mole Cave on normal and hard difficulties multiple times. Luo Fan's eyes went wide. Skills with zero cooldown? That's completely unheard of. Zhang Zhengsheng, sweating, tried to push past the endless wall of skeletons. Excuse me, coming through. He finally got to the other side, turning back with a desperate, incredulous look. So, in the late game, you could even infinitely summon abyssal bone dragons? Chen Xi looked him straight in the eye. Based on my current trajectory, yes. Zhang Zhengsheng's mind raced as Chen Xi explained further. My skills and stats are no different from any standard Shadow Mage. What sets me apart is this trait panel. I unlock one new trait every 5 levels, including my starting trait at level 0. I currently have 3. 3 interfaces flickered in the air. It really is zero cooldown for everything, Luo Fan stammered. All the damage you take is fully transferred to your summons, and you can summon infinitely? Doesn't that make you practically immortal?
Chen Xi pointed to another screen, which read, Trait, Endless Reach. Effect. From the day this trait is unlocked, for every enemy unit killed, the casting range of all skills increases by 1 meter. No upper limit. Current bonus, 303 meters. And look at this casting range, 303 meters, and there's no cap. Zhang Zhangxiong rubbed his temples, his mind overwhelmed. Wait, hold on, let me process this. Just give me a second. Zhang Zhangxiong slapped his own face twice, hard. Damn, it hurts so much. Looks like I'm not dreaming. Zhang Manhwa sighed from the table. Drank too much. But Zhang Zhangxiong was already buzzing with excitement, grabbing Chen Xi by the shoulders. So in the late game, your skill range could easily reach hundreds of kilometers? If you can use the number of monsters you farm to increase your casting range, could it even cover thousands of kilometers? Luofan jumped in, his face alight with hope. By then, an endless army of abyssal bone dragons could whittle a whole country to death through sheer attrition. If that's the case, the Black Dragon mountain range doesn't seem difficult at all. Chen Xi's solo firepower could cover the entire raid dungeon. Zhang nodded furiously. Exactly. He gripped Chen Xi's shoulders tightly, his expression turning deadly serious. Chen Xi, up until now, who else knows about your abilities? Chen Xi replied calmly, just the 3 of you. I know that tall trees catch the most wind, so I won't go around showing off. Coming here today was also a carefully considered decision. Zhang Zhangxiong let out a breath, his eyes sharp. The fewer people who know, the better. If your abilities are exposed, I can guarantee that other countries will try to assassinate you at all costs. He turned and headed for the door. I'll head back right now, inform the Destiny Covenant Association about this, and then we'll make a decision. He paused at the door, looking back at Chen Xi. Chen Xi, wait for Old Woe's news early tomorrow morning. We might need your cooperation on a few things. Chen Xi nodded. All right. Late that night, at the Destiny Covenant Association, an emergency meeting was called. Inside the grand conference room, 5 powerful figures sat around a long table. The central seat belonged to Zhao Tiantuo, the association president, Division 0 captain, a level 63 hidden class Dragon Knight, and one of the top 10 on Country C's leaderboard. He clasped his hands, his deep voice echoing through the room. So, where is our classmate Chen Xi? Zhang spoke up. He has his morning assembly early today. Zhao Tiantuo frowned. Old Zhang, how can you just casually let him go to his morning assembly? We haven't even arranged a protection detail yet. Zhang reassured him. I arranged for 4 holy knights to protect him in secret. He'll be fine. Division 1 Captain, Fang Shang, slammed his hands on the table, his face flushed. Calling us all together overnight? What is this really about? I'm dying of anxiety here. Also, who is this Chen Xi? Why does he even need holy knights for protection? Division 2 Captain, Zhuang Mixi, raised an eyebrow. From what you're saying, this student Chen Xi is still attending academy morning assemblies? Is he a rookie? Division 3 Captain, Qin Chue spoke softly. Last night, the National Emergency Protocol was urgently raised to the highest level, and all cross-border teleportation points nationwide were restricted. Is this also because of this Chen Xi? Fang Shang stood up, shouting, What's going on? Which family's young master is this Chen Xi? Are we going to war or what? Just give the word, and my division will assemble immediately. Zhao Tiantuo raised a hand, calming the room. Everyone, calm down and be patient. To be honest, I only know part of the situation right now, and I haven't even met the person yet.
His morning assembly will end soon. Please wait a moment. Early morning at the Academy Hall, the students were buzzing. Chen Xi actually hit level 10 in 2 days? Isn't that too heaven-defying? I really want to party up with him. What a pity. I must have been blind. Keep dreaming. His teammate is the eldest miss of the Jiang family. Are Shadow Mages really this powerful, or is Chen Xi just that invincible? In a corner, Xing Wei and Chen Luzi were arguing. Luzi's voice was anxious. We need to hurry up and level. I still want to fight for a spot in the Destiny Covenant Association. Xing Wei scoffed. What's the rush? It's just stats. Who cares if we're a bit slow for 2 or 3 days? Luzi shot back. But Chen Xi is already level 10. I abandoned Chen Xi. If I can't join the Destiny Covenant Association now, I'm completely finished. Xingwei's face darkened. So you regret it? Luzi's face went pale. No, you better not. Outside, Chen Xi and Jiang Mengwei walked past them. Jiang Mengwei leaned in with a smirk, whispering, "Your little girlfriend is looking at you. Aren't you going to say hi?" Chen Xi replied flatly, "She's an ex-girlfriend, thanks." Jiang Mengwei smiled, turning her head away. So heartless. The two arrived at the Destiny Covenant Association branch conference room. Chen Xi walked in to find the 5 powerful captains staring at him from the long table, their eyes piercing. He broke out in a cold sweat. I feel like an animal locked in a cage. The captains all stared him down, their gaze scrutinizing him like he was a rare specimen. The room fell into an awkward silence as they looked him over. Luo Fan stepped forward and raised his hand. A golden barrier rippled out across the room, sealing it completely. Today's matter requires absolute secrecy, so it's better to be careful. He smiled at the room. The barrier is set up. Let's continue. I invited everyone here today to discuss 2 things. First, let me introduce you. This is Chen Xi, a rookie. I'm sure you've all heard his situation with all of you. Second, how to most efficiently carry him to level up and the cooperation and scheduling between the guild and him during the national war.
Zhuang Mixi stepped forward with a warm smile, her eyes curving into a friendly crescent. "Little brother, nice to meet you. Big Sis has a gift for you." She walked right up to Chen Xi and pulled him into a tight hug, her hand patting his back. When she pulled away, she held out a dark crystalline cube. "This is a level-less item. The stats are average, but as a magic-type piece of equipment, it increases intelligence by 100 points. Of course, that isn't its best feature. Its most outstanding trait is that it can store a summon." She explained further. Summoners can use it to store a powerful summon in advance, effectively achieving a double summon. Store a summon in there now. If you ever get sneak attacked, it will take the damage for you first. If an assassination attempt fails the first time, it'll be much harder for them to try and kill you again. Chen Xi stared at the box, his voice trembling with awe. This is too precious." Zhao Tiantuo nodded from his seat. "This item is incredibly useful for you, Chen Xi. Put it on and store a skeleton soldier in it while you're at it." Chen Xi looked at the captains, then bowed his head. "Then, thank you very much, Big Sis." Qin Shuer stepped up next, her silver hair swaying. "Speaking of mana, this level-less item suits you as well. Come, hold out your hand." She slipped a delicate ring onto his finger. "Oh, the level-less Lumion ring." "That's right. Its stats are single-focused, but it increases intelligence by 300 points. It provides a huge boost to the attacks of magic-type classes, and will also boost your max mana significantly." Chen Xi looked at the ring, his face lit up with pure joy. "Thank you, big sister." He quickly did the math in his head. 300 intelligence, plus the 100 from the glazed walnut box, that's 400 points. My intelligence right now is higher than many level 30 mages. Fang Xiong cleared his throat awkwardly. "Chen Xi, it's not that our bro here is stingy. Most of our gear is heavy armor types. We don't have any magic-type equipment to give you." He grinned, clapping Chen Xi on the shoulder. "How about this? Bro will take you out tonight to relax and have a good time." He ruffled Chen Xi's hair with a grunt. "Relax my foot. Chen Xi is still young. Don't go teaching him bad habits." The room burst into laughter, Zhuang Mixi and Zhang Menghuai giggling behind their hands. Zhao Tiantuo held up a hand, silencing the room. "All right, back to business." His face grew serious as he leaned forward. "Chen Xi's abilities must not be leaked. Aside from everyone sitting here, even within the Destiny Covenant Association, we can't guarantee that everyone is completely trustworthy. Therefore, his leveling route must be both safe and completely secretive."
Feng Xiang stepped forward, his stance determined. I'll personally power level him. Qin Shuer added, I'll act as the vanguard and ensure his safety. Zhuang Mixi nodded in agreement. Indeed, it's safer if we personally carry him. I'll be responsible for healing and support. Zhao Qiantuo smiled. I will report this up the chain and grant him the highest access to the National Equipment Treasury. Everyone understands Chen Xi's importance, not only in our country, but in the entire history of global professionals. Such a terrifying ability has never appeared before.
In a month, once he fully matures, he'll be able to lead us to the absolute peak. He looked directly at Chen Xi, his voice firm. As the president of the Destiny Covenant Association, I'm tied down with affairs and cannot carry him personally, so I'll have to trouble the three of you. One more thing. There is a large level gap between you and him, so a Platinum Party contract will be needed to compensate and reduce the experience penalty. Zhuang Mixi spoke up. I will be responsible for providing a daily supply of Platinum Party contracts. Zhao Tiansuo nodded. Good. He stood up, pointing at Chen Xi. And finally, there is the question of his affiliation within the guild. Chen Xi, in a month, the Destiny Covenant Association will formally extend an invitation to you.